When I look back now, I wish I could erase that one reckless moment, that one careless sentence that slipped from my lips and shattered everything I had built with Ethan. If I could have swallowed those words, if I could have stopped myself before my pride took control of my tongue, maybe he'd still be here. Maybe our marriage would still be intact. But the truth is, I told him something so cruel, something that hit where it hurt most, and in that instant, I lost him. It all started on a quiet Tuesday evening in Dallas, Texas, where we lived in a modest but cozy home. Ethan had just returned from work, his face tired yet still carrying that warmth he always brought through the door. He worked long hours as a project manager, balancing endless meetings and tight deadlines, but he never failed to greet me with a soft kiss on the cheek, a question about my day, or a little joke to make me laugh. That night, however, I was already in a bad mood. Work at the office had been frustrating. My boss piled more than I could handle, and one of my colleagues managed to take credit for a presentation I had worked on for weeks. I carried that storm of anger and resentment home, and instead of leaving it at the door, I let it boil over into our home. Ethan walked into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables for dinner. "Smells amazing," he said with a smile. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion," I muttered. "Just trying to get through the day." He immediately sensed my mood. Ethan was always good at reading me. He put down his bag and gently rubbed my shoulder. "Rough day." "You could say that," I replied, chopping harder than necessary. He tried to lighten the mood. "Well, dinner's going to be fantastic." "That's already a win." But instead of feeling comforted, I snapped. "You always say that. Can't you just—" "I don't know, be more supportive in a real way." The words hung in the air, sharp and unkind. Ethan's hand froze. He looked at me, clearly hurt, but he stayed quiet, probably hoping I'd calm down. We ate dinner mostly in silence, though Ethan attempted small talk. I, however, let my bitterness fester. And then, after we cleared the table, it happened, the moment I'll always regret. We were arguing about something small, something so insignificant that I can't even remember what triggered it. All I know is that I felt cornered, frustrated, and desperate to win the argument. And that's when I blurted out, "You're not even man enough to make me feel like a real wife." The silence that followed was deafening. I didn't mean it, not in the cruel, literal way it sounded. I just wanted to hurt him the way I felt hurt. But Ethan's face, I'll never forget it. His expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to a pain so deep it cut me to the core. He stood there for a moment, silent, then whispered, "Wow." I tried to take it back immediately. "Ethan, wait, I didn't mean it like that." But he was already walking upstairs. I followed him, begging him to listen, but he didn't shout, didn't curse, didn't even argue. Instead, he pulled out his suitcase and started packing. "Ethan, please." I cried, tears streaming down my face. I was angry, I didn't mean it, please don't leave. He zipped up the bag and finally looked at me. His voice was calm but trembling. "Claire, you don't say something like that unless you've thought it before. You don't throw those words around unless deep down you believe them. And if that's how you see me, then maybe you don't really love me anymore." I sobbed, grabbing his arm. "That's not true, I love you. I was just angry. I was wrong, please forgive me." But Ethan shook his head. "Love isn't supposed to cut this deep." And then he walked out the door that night, leaving me standing in the hallway with nothing but my tears and the echo of my own cruel words. Ugh. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. At first, I told myself he just needed space, that he'd come back after cooling off. But days turned into weeks, and though I texted, called, and even went to his office, Ethan kept his distance. One day, I found a note slipped under my door. It was from him. "Claire, I need time to heal. What you said broke something in me I didn't even know could break. I don't know if we can fix this, but I need to figure out who I am outside of the shadow of your words. Please don't contact me for now." Ethan. Reading that note shattered me all over again. I replayed that night endlessly in my mind. Why did I let my pride, my anger, my bad day destroy the man who loved me most? I remembered every sacrifice he made for me, how he supported me through college, how he surprised me with small acts of love, how he never judged me on my worst days. And I I threw it all away with one reckless sentence. My parents noticed the change in me. So did my friends. I became quieter, withdrawn. At night, I cried myself to sleep, clutching the pillow where Ethan used to lay his head. One evening, I visited my friend Jessica. She listened as I poured my heart out, guilt dripping from every word. "You need to give him space," she said softly. "But you also need to work on yourself. Prove to him, not through words, but through your actions, that you know what you did was wrong." So that's what I tried to do. I started therapy to learn how to manage my emotions. I began journaling every day, writing down the things I appreciated about Ethan and the things I wanted to change in myself. I stopped lashing out at people when I was upset, and I started apologizing quickly when I was wrong. Weeks turned into months. And then, one Saturday morning, I opened the door to find Ethan standing there. My heart nearly stopped. He looked different, tired, thinner, but still the man I loved. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, tears already forming in my eyes. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where it all went wrong. He told me how deeply my words had cut him, how long it took for him to believe he was still enough, still worthy. He admitted that he still loved me, but that he was scared of being hurt again. "I don't need perfection," he said. "I just need respect. I need to know that the woman I love won't tear me down when she's angry." I reached for his hand, trembling. "Ethan, I promise you, I've changed. I've been working on myself. I was wrong, and I'll never stop regretting that night. You are enough. You've always been enough." For a moment, he was silent. Then slowly he squeezed my hand back. That night, for the first time in months, Ethan stayed. We didn't fix everything immediately. Healing took time. There were setbacks, tears, and long conversations. But step by step, we rebuilt. And I learned something I will carry for the rest of my life. Words have the power to destroy, but also the power to heal. I almost lost the love of my life forever because of one cruel sentence. But by the mercy of forgiveness, patience, and genuine change, I was given a second chance. And I'll never take that for granted again.